You are playing your favorite racing game and you see this brand and you think to yourself, what is this? Hi, I'm Astro Buster, and today we're gonna talk about the history of Pagani Automobili. You already know the high-class names such as Ferrari and Lamborghini, right? Those high-class names, they came from other high-class names at the time before they even got to be the big-name households they are today. Well, Pagani is no different in this aspect. Today, Pagani is an automotive industry that is equal to exclusivity, craftsmanship, and personality. Before we even get to start, we have to know who's the person behind this. His name is Horacio Pagani. He was born November 10, 1955 in Casilda, Argentina. His father was a baker and his mom was a painter. Since Pagani was really young, he developed a love for art and engineering. But he realized that in order to fulfill his dreams in the automotive world, he had to leave the town that he lived in Argentina. He opened a shop where he worked really hard and gained all his experience there. After that, he built an F3 car. You know, there's F1, F2, and F3. He did an F3 car way back in what, the 70s? Can you believe it? With not that much experience in engineering. And then imagine this, he built the car, but he was missing the engine. And he was like, where can I get an engine? He went to Renault, you know, the car brand, the French people. He went there and he went to the headquarters, right? And he was like, you know what, I want an engine. I have a car here, I need an engine. And they were astonished by how he came to them. They saw his potential, because imagine this, a 20-year-old taking a freaking car they built to your corporate headquarters. You'd be like, wow, this kid with this little knowledge did all that. Imagine all the potential he has. Renault was, you know, surprised, and they provided him all, like, with all this that I told you, with the potential he already had. They were like, hey, all in with this kid. Remember what I said about, you know, big name brands coming from other big name brands? So Horacio, after his work with Renault, he moved on in life and went to Lamborghini. He was a chief engineer there. Although he did a lot of applications to get there and he did the most that he could to get there, he finally got there. From starting like molding cars to actually being a chief engineer, he was under the work of the Lamborghini Countach. Yeah, the one that appears in that movie and in other movies. Yeah, that car. He was the one behind it. That guy, yeah, the guy who went as a kid or as a young guy to Renault without that much engineering knowledge to get an engine, the one who built his own car, the one that did all that since he was like, what, 20? Yeah, that guy, he worked on the freaking Lamborghini Countach. So after the Countach was done, right, he felt that something could be even high, like he knew he could achieve way higher with this car by adding carbon fiber, making more of the car, like more of the body, carbon fiber. Lamborghini initially wasn't that, you know, they were not in favor of that, but he did like one of the tests or projects, and the car was like 1,000 pounds lighter. Imagine having a cool car, right, and making it even lighter and cooler, adding carbon fiber. Then, with this idea in mind, he went to Lamborghini asking, hey, we should make cars with carbon fiber. But they needed a machine for that. And Lamborghini was like, hey, if Ferrari is not using that, why should we use it? So at the end of the day, Horacio was like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. He went on his own and got like a loan for a big machine at the time that made the carbon fiber. After that, he moved on out of Lamborghini because he wanted freedom. He wanted to do his own thing with no barriers, nothing holding him anymore. And after that, he decided to make his brand Pagani in 1992 in Modena, Italy. You may ask, okay, how did he even start then? Enter the Pagani Sonda. This car was launched in 1999. It had a V12 sourced by Mercedes-AMG who he got through different connections. It had a lot of carbon material inside, carbon fiber, you know, that cool metal that we like. And yeah, also the V12 was naturally aspirated, so you know how crazy it was. And the name, you come up like, what Zonda? What Zonda means? What does that come from? So Zonda is like a mix of hot and cold airs from the big mountains over there in Argentina. So Pagani wanted his inspiration comes from the air and how the air flows, and he wanted his car to be like air, like flying and all that. So he wanted to have, give that honor of representation of where he was born. And at the time in the 90s, he wanted to make his car meet. He wanted to make art and engineering meet. And he did, because if you look at the car, like beauty is relative, but like if you look at the car and like it's really good looking, at least I like it. Looks good, and the performance was really good at the time. A V12 naturally aspirated that was giving around 540 horsepower. It was around less than 3,000 pounds, around 2,700. And it did what? The 0 to 60 in around 4 seconds? In the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s. Not much cars were able to do that. Some of them were, of course, were able to do this. But like, this is a first time of a car brand to do this. Like the first iteration of a car did this. And then the Zonda C12 took shape in the 1999 Geneva Motor Show. This car, that was the first time that it was showcased like to all the people. With all the crazy things that I told you, the V12, the weight and all that, he only made 5 of them. Like the first beginning was only 5. And the price was around 300,000 euros. It was around 320,000 euros at the time. If you compare it to dollars, back then it was like around 350, 53 around that time. And that was the price that you had to pay to get into one of these machines. Aside from the price, you had to be very lucky or have the connections, because remember, it was only 5 of them, the first release. And now, you wouldn't think this would be like it for the Zonda, right? Just 5 models and that's it, call it a day? No, yeah, you're a genius. You knew that this was not it. So the Zonda had more variations and even crazier than the first one. Aside from being convertible or removable top, it was even crazier because he did the Zonda Roadster, right? After the Zonda, the first one, he did a good amount of variants, such as, first we had the 1999 release, right? After that, it came the Zonda S, which was in 2002. It was a more powerful engine, and then, let's not forget, it was a 7-liter V12 by AMG. Don't forget that. Then after the 2002 Zonda S, the Zonda Roadster comes in. It was pretty much an open top C12 that had like a removable fiber roof. And then in 2005, the Zonda F, it was more powerful than before. It had better aerodynamics, and it had a better weight reduction. So after that, the Roadster F, which was the convertible, then the Zonda Cinque or Cinque, that it was limited edition of 5 cars. Wow, something new, 5 limited edition again, wow. And now that one, the Cinque, they had the same, 7.3 liter engine, a unique aerodynamics, and a manual gearbox as well. Then the Zonda Tricolor, which was pretty much a tribute to the 50th anniversary of Wreck-It Tricolor, the aerobatic team. It was just limited to 3 units, which even crazier. First it was 5, now it's 3. But it was just because a special edition in honor to the aerobatic team. Let's not forget the Zonda R, which was a track-only variant. It had a better 7.3 V12 engine. It had a more carbon use and carbon fiber use, and it had a freaking 6-speed sequential gearbox, which it was super quick when shifting. Then, like different years, they were doing the unique orders, let's say, because those models were more custom made or special edition for certain people, that they ordered their own Zonda spec how they wanted. So they had like different names and all that. Then I think the final release was the Zonda Revolution in 2013. It was like the final iteration. It was super track focused. It was limited to 5 units again. Like the way it started, it was the way it was ending. So that's something, you know, that it was a good way to end the Zonda. And it was really just track focused. It was top of the line, top dog. And then in 2012, Pagani was like, hey, we had a good amount of time of this car already. We should have a successor, you know? It comes the second iteration of Pagani, the Pagani Huayra. The Pagani Huayra had a V12 engine, but it was twin turbo, and it had crazy aerodynamics because it had active flaps. So pretty much the car was adjusting. It's like the flaps were adjusting depending on what you needed. Like if you're braking, they open, or if you were steering, they were doing like one lower, the other higher. It was crazy. But remember, it was such a expensive car. And now you may think, okay, Huayra, what does this name comes from? So in South America, back then in the indigenous times, Huayra was the god of wind. And like we already know, Pagani wanted to relate his cars to the wind, right? So imagine now we had the winds from the mountains of Argentina. Now we have the god of wind. And look at this car. It was shaped even more aerodynamic than before. It had the flaps. It had a twin turbo V12. And now you wonder, what's the numbers of this car? Like, okay, what's the power? What's the weight of this car? Tell me more. So the Huayra produced 764 horsepower from the twin turbo V12. It had a 0 to 60 in 2.8, and forgot to mention, it had the Zonda at the time had like a 210 top speed miles per hour, and this one had like 230 miles per hour top speed. So it was better than the other one in almost every aspect. It was a little bit heavier, but it compensated with the earned horsepower and the higher top speed. And when it was released at the time, he decided to put more production into cars. Instead of 5, he did 100 for this, like 100 units for the 2012. Now you wonder, what was the price back then? It was $830,000. From $830,000 to $1 million. In dollars, it was around 1.1 million to 1.4 million. So you can tell that it really went higher as time went by. And once again, such as the Zonda, you wouldn't think it was it for the Huayra, right? I mean, come on, you already knew this. You're a genius. You knew that the Huayra wasn't just a one-time model. No. So just like the Zonda, it had even crazier versions, aside from being removable top or topless. But aside from that, it was even crazier. So they started like after 2012, 5 years later, he did the Roadster, which was a removable top. Then the Huayra in 2019, the Huayra BC, which was, as we know, stronger, better, faster. Then he did the Roadster BC. After that, there was the Roadster BC Macchina Volante around 2020. It was, like by the name, you may think it was already a special edition of the BC. And it had interesting design, interesting elements, I might say, and interesting livery. Huayra Imola in 2020, it was a really track focused, and it was only limited, just like the Revolution, the Zonda Revolution, it was limited to 5 units. And now what's up with this name, Imola? Imola was pretty much a circuit in Italy, and that's what it's pretty much inspired of. This car had a way better aerodynamics, it was way better in pretty much everything because remember, it was a track focus variant. Then we had the Huayra Tricolor in 2021, and instead of celebrating 50 years like the Zonda did, this one celebrated 60 years. And it was in honor, once again, of the aviation, the Italian Air Force Tricolor, the Frecce Tricolore. Then he did the Huayra R, which was an actual, even more track focused and track only variant design, pretty much. It was just for the racetrack. You couldn't like use it outside, and it had a naturally aspirated V12 also. It was really lightweight in comparison to the other ones. One of the latest ones was the Roadster BC Pachetto Tempesta. It was pretty much an optional performance package for the BC, the Roadster BC, and it had better aerodynamics and performance. So the same that happened with Zonda, it happened with the Huayra. It had special editions. Each one was better than before, slightly changes aside from being convertible, but pretty much all of them had, you know, similar changes in regards to their own model. And like I mentioned before, they had like their major production. I may say major production because they were like the more common versions, but they also made a lot more tailored and special editions for different people who actually liked the car and wanted the car. But as of right now, one of the latest releases is the Pagani Utopia. So this is, well, there's not much released just yet, not much information. So far being only 99 units, and they had a V12 again from Mercedes. It looks amazing. Utopia is like a place where, you know, hard to find, or hard to get there. It's like a dream-like place, you know? That's what Utopia pretty much is. And taking this into consideration, thinking of all of the two versions, you know, the Huayra and the Zonda, this third iteration of Pagani's creation, it's, you know, it's gonna have the different roadster versions, it's gonna have the track focus variant, it's gonna have, you know, the special editions. It will be crazy. It will be crazy. We know this. That's pretty much what's going on so far with Pagani. So this was like a really summarized version of the history of Pagani. I hope you liked it. But to be honest, I don't have anything else to say. I'll see you.